Hey guys, what's going on? Valky here. As you guys know, if you're a veteran of the channel, at the end of every competitive season, generally speaking, I make a tips and trick video with maybe about 3 tips and secret little tricks that you can learn to try to help you accelerate your climb for the end of the season. This one in particular, I would say, is geared towards champion and emperor rank, and maybe even a little bit of legend if you just need that extra push. If your main goal is just to hit master's rank, this one is probably a little bit too in-depth for you. So just to give you guys a little bit of a preview, let's go right into it. So my first tip for this season is for you guys to learn Standard. Now Standard hasn't been a mainstay playstyle for a really long time, but with the release of Tori, it feels like Tori is just such a strong character. There's been a return to form of people playing Standard. Now, if you're really new, you might be asking, the hell is Standard? And Standard is a really simple concept to understand. It's called Standard because it's supposed to imitate a very standard RPG party. Now, if you look at my team composition, let's say in this match, I can pick any of these and the example will stand. My first 3 units is going to be a support, a DPS unit, and a tank. Well, in this case, Ilanav is the tank, and my Bellion is the DPS unit, followed by a second DPS, and a either third DPS or maybe even a debuffer unit. Your last unit is flexible, and it could do anything. And this is a really simple formula to learn. And if you just watch any high-ranked streamers, you will see this formula essentially being played across both sides. This is an extremely ubiquitous way to play the game right now. Being middle speed, you don't have to be fast and you don't have to have super tanky gear, village everything up and play Harsetti. No, you don't have to do that. If you just have a good amount of units, even if you just have, I would say, half to a third of all the units I'm about to tell you, you are going to see a lot of success. And you see this. Support, DPS, tank, debuffer, which is also a support, into a final DPS. My opponent plays 2 disruptors, DPS, technically a tank here, and then another DPS. This is a bit more of an aggressive draft, and I have a little bit of a cheat sheet for you guys. Before I show you guys, I do have to say, I gotta make a declaration here. Just drafting the units, if you're just picking these units without considering the matchup, and you go, oh, I'm not winning game, this YouTuber is scamming me. No. You have to learn the matchup. Standard is all about learning the matchups. What unit counters what, who has a good matchup versus these meta units, who has bad matchup, what unit is real, meaning like what unit, no matter how many bad matchups you put them in, they're still good, and what unit is fake. A good example is ML Hwayoung being an extremely fake unit. Even in extremely advantageous and favorable matchups, she's going to lose some games. Alright, ML Hwayoung is a very fake unit. So without further ado, let's look at the cheat sheet. This is my standard cheat sheet for the spring season of 2025. It's going to be a lot, but let's go right into it. So first up, your first pick is almost always going to be an opener, which is a support. A character that are viable here, or at least most common. I'll give you guys some common ones, and you guys could probably come up with a few on your own. But the best ones right now are ML Peyra, ML Luna, ML Lua, Conqueror Lilius, and Sea Phantom Politis. So what you need to do with these characters is you need to establish your speed priority. And what that means is protecting you versus mid-speed threats. So your opponent can't just spring a Nadalon Monk Knockwall on you. Death Dealer Ray is going to be very hard to play unless you set up the exact right conditions where he's allowed to be picked. Picking openers in this spot is exactly how characters like Strays, Architect Laika, and even Kisei, if you think about Fire Kowerik, these are all mid-speed, high-threat characters that used to be very, very dominant in the game, but when these openers became meta and they were good supports for all playstyles, these mid-speed threats kind of just died. So picking one of these up to protect your team super early is key here. On your second pick, generally speaking, you want to pick some kind of DPS unit. Now, these could be anything from Tori to ML Shu, a Yufine, Pyrian Ilanav, Death Dealer Ray, Bellion, AS Flan, and I almost forgot this one was making this, BBK. These need to be relatively neutral, which means they have little to no weaknesses, so like in the case of ML Shu and Tori, and they need to somehow counter your opponent's opener to some degree. So in my case, I first picked the opener in Lone Wolf Peyra, my opponent goes Hellion Lua, and now I pick up Tori. If you give her a turn 1 immunity, the Lua will never be able to debuff her, so on and so forth. Your third pick needs to be a tank. Now, a tank's job is really simple. They keep your team alive. If you think about it in a standard RPG party, a good tank, even in a single player game, is how you stay alive versus the toughest of bosses, and in PvP that is no exception. The units that are good here are Adventurer Ross after his buff, Blue Crow, huge after his buff, Albedo, a Tywin, and if you have them, Protection Set, Aureus, Bellion, and Yufine go really hard in these spots. And once again, I need to emphasize, most of the time, you want them in the band protection slot because the tank is the most important character in any standard draft. Now, the one thing you do have to note is that since it is third pick band protection, you can pivot into a non-tank character if your opponent exposes themselves with some kind of weakness. For example, if they go early Death Dealer Ray, you can take Schneel. If they go early ML Flan and ML Shu, you could go Solitaria. If they go too many counterattacks, Mort can go on 3. If they go rely too much on penetration, Empyrean Ilnav goes here. And you guys will notice a common theme. The number one job for the character in these slots is to mitigate damage. It keeps your team alive, and it guarantees you a basic level of safety no matter what you are trying to play. In the case of Schneel, you're picking him into DDR to avoid Venom. Solitaria blocks out all focus characters. Mort protects your team versus counterattacks. So, and you know, you guys are smart, so I'm sure you see the pattern here. On pick 4, you're going to want your second DPS. That could be any of these early units, or units like Karina, Celine, Briar, Witch Iseria, Mort, Galililius, Teiyu, Genua, Arya, Solitaria. They have to play through some bad matchups because afterwards your opponent can still respond to you. So they can be a debuff or a control unit like Solitaria or Death Dealer Ray, but essentially their purpose is to carry the rest of your damage load if your first DPS character gets banned. Lastly, you have your flex slot. This could be anything from like a Noctwol to Young Senya, Requiem Roana, a Miki. That's a huge one in this slot. A lot of team right now just straight up die to a Miki, even if they're tanky. Blooming Lidica, Dien Saltaria, Designer Lilibet, Dragon King Sharoon, Tea Time Tenebria, Blood Moon Haste, Elena. That's Elena and Red Politics are super important for anti-cleave. If you see cleavers coming, you gotta have those ready. Bystander Huayang, sometimes good here. Green Roana, specifically for Hellion Lua. What this spot needs is it needs to pull your opponent's band. Right now, Epic 7 in Standard versus Standard, more than any other time in the game's history, Standard is king, and you have to pull the ban to let your top 4 units play. So if your opponent doesn't ban the unit, this character has to single-handedly be able to win the game. Like for example here, Mort is a green bruiser. He has not only 4 blue units, he also has Hellion Lua, which absolutely gets shut down by Mort, and both of his last 2 DPSs heavily rely on counterattack and generally doesn't have a chance at killing Mort. So Mort is really good here, pulls the ban, and Arya here, just in case, you know, I get stuck with Tori only. He finds a good way to pick my Death Dealer Ray. Well, you know, it's GG. I can't fight through an Arya. So that's my cheat sheet there. Make sure you guys, you know, screenshot this, download this, have it up on the side as you play RTA. Whatever it is a resource for you guys to use to have an easier time in RTA, because I know some of you guys don't play the damn game, so this is a really easy inlet. The only thing you have to do is learn the matchups. What character is good into what counters what. Play your matches, and you should be able to fuck around and find out. Now, my second tip to you guys is figuring out your pre-bans and picking the right openers. We established earlier, openers are an extremely integral and important part of playing Standard. They protect your team from a lot of middle speed threats, so picking the right openers for what you're trying to accomplish is key. And especially in 2024, I said 2024? I mean 2025. You really got to be able to play around the pre-bans as well as, you know, depending on those pre-bans, what your opponent leaves you with. What options does that give you? So let's go into the opener's cheat sheet. And here we have every single, if not most, of the openers for 2025. Starting from Lone Wolf Peyra. She's really good versus ML Luna, ML Zio, stuff that relies on debuffs. All you have to do is build her a little bit slower, and she'll be able to pop off the moment her Sweet Miracle activates, gets rid of any heart CC that's on her, and then the 2 debuff cleanse should just be able to get you back into the game against any strong opening that doesn't immediately destroy your entire team. New Moon Luna. I mean, this is one of the best characters in the game. She's pretty much good versus everything, but her one bad matchup is versus ML Peyra. If your New Moon Luna goes, she has to skip the seal, unless you have a whole combo that's there to disrupt the ML Peyra. You have to skip the seal, drop the S2, and then ML Peyra can just kind of bring the combat readiness to her team and out-tempo you, and most likely kill your Luna before she even gets her second turn. Hellion Lua's good versus almost everything, at least when it comes to openers. You know, she does get soft blocked by a Mort, gets soft blocked by Roana, and she's not very good. You don't want to pick her into Peyra. These two characters are often picked together in a lot of settings, and she's not very good into the 128 club, which is Blue Ran and Blue Peyra. Zio is something you're going to pick a lot if you're a cleave player. If you're a standard player, sometimes it's Zio. You guys probably saw some drafts where I was trying to play Successor Teiyu. What he's really good for is he's good versus the club 128 units, and a lot of times your opponent needs to be able to snatch him up quick if they're trying to cleave you. So he's not very good versus the anti-cleave units because he usually doesn't do enough. And the units he's really bad against are the 120s, which are these 3 units up here. These units either start out stealth, or they're like ML Peyra, evasion unit. You just do not want to commit anything, especially not an S3 into her. When it comes to Ran and Peyra, they're really good versus the 120 speed units, but very bad versus Zio and any anti-cleave measures. Cleave is just kind of in a really rough spot to play, so you really only want to pick them if your opponent is trying to play these 120 speed units, and they're not exactly prepared to swing into a full anti-cleave comp, and you kind of have to speed up on them and go into a full cleave. Now, Conqueror Lilius kind of has okay-ish matchups all around. She's not really super good versus anything, but she's also not bad versus anything. And the number one good thing about Conqueror Lilius is that she never eats a pre-ban. So you can almost always just pick her if you need an opener to protect you versus mid-speed and drop that Vigor buff. Always good value. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know how I forgot about Sea Phantom, but Sea Phantom's back up there now. As far as opener goes, she's very good versus Zio, but none of the other opener. Like, I would say she's not super good versus Peyra, although she's okay. She's definitely not good versus Luna, and you don't want to be playing her into Hellion Lua. But her main edge is that she's really good versus a lot of the slower units because they rely on focus and they rely on fighting spirit, and that's generally where Sea Phantom Politis is really good. And if we look at some of the pre-bans, let's say I want to play ML Peyra because that's one of the few openers I have. Then I don't really care about pre-banning any of the openers. More so, I'm looking to ban out some of the slower, disruptive characters, like, for example, DDR Wraith, that could potentially just shut down my entire team. If I'm looking to first pick ML Luna, I probably wouldn't pre-ban around that because 1, Luna is good versus everything, and 2, she kind of eats a lot of pre-bans herself. So not a game plan you want to prepare your entire identity around. If you're looking to play a lot of ML Lua, then I would say you want to ban Lone Wolf Peyra plus Harsetti. Just because Lone Wolf Peyra with Sweet Miracle is going to be able to cleanse the taunts pretty much for free, and you don't really want that to happen. This is going to be a matchup you really want to learn, and because of these 2 units specifically, people are slowing down their openers because both characters want to be slower than each other in their respective matchups, and as long as you're not being hurt by being too slow, like you get outspat by a Knockwall, you should be good. If you're looking to play Zio, you're probably playing Cleave, and in that case, your pre-bans are Bellion plus Harsetti, since that will open up Zio's Tagahel's Ancient Book. If you're lacking any of these ML openers and you have like a bit of an older account, all you got are these 128 units, I'd say you probably want to play a lot of Peyra, and in that case, you want to ban Harsetti plus Zio, because 128 base speed means you can race a lot of the cleave compositions, and on top of that, you don't want a Zio around to potentially just drop S3 on your opener for free. If all you have is Conqueror Lilius, then there are no specific pre-bans you want to take. She's okay into all the matchups, as long as you have the sweet Miracle Artifact. And, of course, last but not least, Sea Phantom Politis. If you're looking to play her a lot because you picked her up during the Headhunt event, and this is the only opener you own, then I would ban Harsetti plus Hellion Lua, because Hellion Lua absolutely ruins her day. Lastly, I got a bit of an easier tip for you guys. So as you guys can see right now, we are 2 days and 20 hours, so 3 days from the end of the season. Now, as a streamer, one thing that happens to me a lot is during the last few days, people always come in, oh, Mr. Streamer, what do you think the cutoff is? Like, how many points do I need to have by the end of the season? And I feel like this happens especially a lot in Emperor, less so in Legend, because people usually have an idea of what their goal is. But by the time you guys are seeing this, which probably means the video will be uploaded, let's say when there is 2 days and roughly 5 or 6 hours left, if you are rank 300 or less, like if you're rank 287, I think you're done for the season. Obviously, if you're playing for Legend, keep playing. But if you're rank 300 by then, I would say most of the time you're done. So in my case, I have probably 80 to 90 more points to climb before I'm done for the season, if my goal is Emperor. If you're a Legend player around that time, I would say if you're about top 30 or so, then you're in a spot where it's safe. Usually for Emperor, I would say it's 3550 is the final cutoff, and for Legend, it's about 3,800 points. The reason why this number is lower for this season is because this season is cut shorter by about approximately 2 weeks. Smilegate just decided the season was going to end 2 weeks earlier for fun, so point total is lower across all ranks. It's probably going to change a little bit once Warlord rank is here, but the rule of thumb is if you're the top 30% in your rank when there's about 2.5 days left, you are generally safe. And with that, those are my 3 tips for you guys this season. I feel like this has been pretty jam-packed with information. Hopefully, I made it somewhat digestible. Especially with the cheat sheet, it certainly doesn't cover everything. Standard is the most accessible, but also the most high skill cap playstyle. So if you guys think I missed something, feel free to drop in the comments down below. If you have any more questions, do make sure to pop into the Discord server. If you want to ask about stats, exactly how certain units work, I make sure I keep as much information as possible in my stats catalog, and you can see small guides and YouTube shorts for every single character there as well. That being said, guys, good luck on your climb this season. I hope to see some of you guys on the ladder. And yeah, I was maybe going to play for Legend this season, and then I got invited to the Box Bootcamp for Set 14's TFT. So probably going to be doing that when this video is live. So if you guys see me around, make sure to hop by twitch.tv/Valky. I'll make sure to have a few more videos coming soon to help people draft, especially in RTA and stuff like that. But the next while, I'll probably be focusing my efforts on the TFT bootcamp. This next set is pretty fun, and I'm having a lot of fun with it, honestly. So yeah, guys, make sure you guys take care. I'll see you guys in the next video, alright? See ya.